Tonight, we hit the road for a special report on the business of big rig trucking.
When you get behind the wheel of that truck, it's like sitting on the back of a horse. There's 550 of them under there, and it gives you some authority or some power. I like the massive looks, the squareness of it, the big stacks on it, the size, the noise, the roar, the vibration. That's what makes a truck driver drive trucks.
But if you think it's easy making a living on the open road, just hold on. You're in for quite a ride. We'll bring you the news tonight on Dan Rather Reports. Good evening. Most of us think of truckers crisscrossing America as knights of the highway who live a life of chrome and adventure. Over the past 30 years, trucking has exploded into a giant industry that is very much the lifeblood of our economy. But the big rigs that once embodied the working man's American dream have become what one economist calls sweatshops on wheels. Tonight, you will experience long-haul life firsthand because we're riding shotgun with a truck-driving man.
I climbed up aboard my old semi.
So climb aboard and buckle up.
Like a flash, I was gone. I got all them big wheels a rolling. I'm on my way to San Antonio.
Our odyssey will take us beyond the big rig ballads. We're going on a real-life run to give you a rare inside look at a $650 billion business that most of us know virtually nothing about. We'll find out why truckers are working 90-hour weeks and going broke, while consumers like you and me are pocketing big savings, and corporate middlemen and Wall Street investors are banking big profits. It's a story about true American grit and hard-working people, free markets, and fading hopes.
I'm just a truck driving man.
Don Wagner was a small businessman who got into trucking late in life. He came of age during simpler times, when an honest day's work meant a decent day's pay. After nearly 10 years of chasing his big rig dreams, he loves the work, but he's still fazed by the realities of what it takes to make a living.
You do the very best you can. I pick up my loads on time. I deliver my loads on time. I maintain my truck. I'm not broke down. The loyalty is there. I need something to go with it.
Right now, Don's delivering a load in the small town of Osceola, Iowa.
Oh, come on. What do we got here?
He's at the corner of Fillmore and McLean Street with a 75-foot rig.
Boy, this is going to be a tight squeeze for me.
The GPS says turn right, but a decade of experience tells Don that semis and small-town streets are a bad combination.
No, I'm not worried about the mailbox. I'm worried about that telephone pole.
Don doesn't need any more worries. He's 66 years old, his wife is sick, and they're both working like dogs just to make payments on the truck that was supposed to be earning them a living. What sounds like the lyrics to a country western song is real life for thousands of truckers like Don.
Something is not right here. I think this is the street we came in on.
Don's supposed to deliver his load at 8 a.m. That's 5 minutes from now.
Uh-oh, now we're in trouble.
Straight ahead, there should be a warehouse. But out Don's front window is only a park with an icy lake.
Getting back to the electronic age, here we are. The GPS don't have it and we're lost.
Lost. And not only here in Osceola. Don's whole business is lost in the dizzying swirl of the trucking industry. The big rig business is a giant crossfire of 10 billion tons of freight, more than 200,000 trucking companies, 12,000 freight brokers, and nearly 2 million drivers. The competition is fierce. The margins are merciless. For the independent trucker out there on his own, the only way to survive is to escape the mass market, to find someone to guide him out of the morass of cheap-paying freight and cut-rate competition. That someone is usually a reliable freight broker who can provide a steady stream of good-paying loads. It's the guardian freight agent every trucker's searching for, but so many never find. Right now, Don really needs to find a way out, in more ways than one.
We made a right-hand turn and went down by a park.
Don thinks he might have finally found his guardian agent, the one who can turn his business around. But it all depends on his next haul, a haul that's due to be in Dallas tonight. The trip to Dallas is more than 750 miles. That's one heck of a long day's drive, and he's not going anywhere until he gets this load delivered.
Oh, go west out of, oh, that's the way we came in. We came in from the casino.
This saga all began 4 days ago in Don's hometown, an old mining outpost about 80 miles east of Reno called Yarrington, Nevada. He came home when his wife Leslie's heart trouble sent her to the emergency room.
Hang on, boss.
I got it.
It's been more than a year since Don spent a whole week at home.
Can you have Heather bring us a couple lemons?
No. No, he's kidding. He's kidding.
Like most truckers, Don's paid by the mile. When his wheels don't turn, he's got no money coming in, and some very steep expenses adding up. With the big bills due next week, they can't afford for him to stay home even one more day.
Oh, we don't actually have that one here. Okay.
No, and that means it's not available. It's gone.
Since Leslie got out of the hospital, she's been searching for a load nonstop, unsuccessfully.
If you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you've spent 5 or 6 hours sitting here looking for a load, and there's either nothing decent, nothing going the way you want it to go, or nothing you can book, it's very frustrating.
If they only had a guardian agent, they wouldn't be under so much pressure.
It's Sunday, it's late. Not a good thing right now.
This is a situation that Leslie knows all too well.
Should we try it and see what's available?
Booking business for a lot of independent truckers isn't about how fast you deliver, but how fast you dial up. Leslie stakes out this computer day after day, waiting to pounce the second a freight broker posts a good load on the load boards, which are basically electronic want ads for truckers.
I turn it on as soon as I get up in the morning, because if a good load comes on and he's in an area that's hard to get out of, you've got literally 2 minutes to call and make the contact.
It takes 2 people, because during the day while I'm driving, I can't pull off to the side of the road and say, oh, I want to book that load.
So nothing's changed, basically. Now it's down to 28 loads.
For the Wagners, the search for a load sounds like a game show of geography.
Stockton to Denver.
The West Sac is gone. Sacramento to French Camp.
Arbuckle to Las Vegas.
Looky here. Here's a town named Wagner.
But location is critical. Even the best load can turn into a very pricey mistake if Don goes to a place with no loads for the return trip, or what truckers call the backhaul.
There's Reno to Salt Lake.
Can't get out till March 8th.
Of course, the key factor is price.
$1.33 a mile. Wow, that's a real payer.
Wow.
Anything less than $1.65 a mile, Don's basically losing money.
$1.33, $1.53, $53, and $1.33.
Yep. Until we get some little alerts tomorrow, I don't really see that there's any choices.
No, not really. Not good.
No, it's bad. Your best hope is to get up at 6 o'clock and look for a load alert. It's the only thing you can do.
Goodbye.
Once upon a time, trucking was basically a public utility, like electricity or phone service. The government approved prices, limited new competition, and granted rights to run routes. Truck driving was a solid middle-class job, at least for the Teamsters at the big union fleets. But there were also thousands of independent truckers who were locked out of the lucrative lanes, confined to a second-tier market of low-paying freight. But that all changed one summer day exactly 30 years ago, when President Carter signed a law that deregulated the trucking industry.
The Motor Carrier Act of 1980 will eliminate the red tape and the senseless overregulation that have hampered the free growth and the development of the American trucking industry.
The free market meant a new era of opportunity. Competition soared, efficiency spiked, shipping rates plummeted. Consumers saved billions of dollars. But economists say the bulk of the savings from deregulation came straight out of the pockets of truck drivers on the front lines. Talk to any veteran trucker out there, and you'll hear the same lament.
The industry has changed so much that I'll have to work twice as hard now to make the money that I made 30 years ago to support my family. That's a problem.
Today, the red tape has been replaced by a new caste of profit-seeking middlemen, freight brokers. Gone are fat cat union cartels, but in their place is a new generation of big, non-union, low-margin carriers.
A lot of these new companies that I call new that started after deregulation make a profit, but it's off the back of their labor by cheap rates and keeping them away from home at 6 weeks at a time.
I'm just barely paying my bills. I have to stay out here all the time, never at home, just to try to pay my bills. I haven't been home in 2.5 months.
Part of the problem is the Great Recession, which sent thousands of fleets, big and small, into financial straits. But even when the freight market was soaring in 2005, real wages for truck drivers had dropped more than 30% from 1980 levels. The new industry-wide average became just over $35,000 a year. For independents like Don, the average take-home became about $22,000. Back in Nevada, Don and Leslie were up before daybreak to look for loads.
You've got mail. Do we have anything?
One load alert.
One. That's it?
Yeah, that was one load alert.
The coffee is refilled, phone calls are placed, messages are rechecked. The morning is ticking away.
Hello? Another load alert.
Okay.
Coming in.
Oh, okay, there it is.
What is it?
Reno to Osceola, Iowa, $1.75 a mile.
The run's paying a total of $2,755. Of course, Don wouldn't walk away with anything close to that, but it would probably be enough to cover the bills due next week. And Iowa seems to offer a lot of prospects for backhaul loads.
These are the loads that are already on the board within 150 miles coming out. So at least...
So lots of loads.
So you're going to have...
These are all brand new. Look at this.
Call on it.
Calling on it in regards to that load you got from Sparks to Osceola, Iowa. We'll take that one.
Yes.
The persistence paid off. They want him at the Reno Convention Center as soon as possible.
Oh, you're such a pretty girl.
I cleaned that bucket out for my dog.
Here's your apples. I don't know where you want them.
My guard dog.
You don't need nothing.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
When I kiss my wife goodbye, she knows I may be gone 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I've been out as long as 6 weeks. That's a long time. I really don't like to go out that long. But I got to go where the freight goes. And where the freight goes, that's where the money goes, and that's where I got to go.
The Odyssey begins. Don's embarking on a run that will start with a pickup in Reno today, run more than 1,600 miles in the dead of winter, through mountain ranges and high country plains, and deliver 3.5 days from now at 8 a.m. Thursday morning in Osceola, Iowa.
Coming up next, we hit the road with Don Wagner.
The long haul may not be what it used to be, but truckers still love the old school country crooning. Big rigs have gotten bigger, safer, shinier.
You have blondes, you have redheads, you have orange and yellow trucks, you have tall trucks, short trucks. It's like being in a candy store and having your choice of what you want.
Pride in the ride. That's what truck shows are all about.
And with the click of a button, the door opens up. Basically, it started kind of like as a dream, and it became reality here in Dallas at the Great American Truck Show.
But beyond the high-polished gloss are the day-to-day realities of the road.
Earning a living out here takes a calculus that would boggle the mind of most civilians. Truckers are constantly running the numbers, plotting a path between rates and regulations, freight brokers and fuel prices, storm fronts and loading docks. There is no margin for mistake. Every dollar, every mile, every minute counts.
It's a little before 2 p.m., and Don's just arrived at the Reno Convention Center where he's picking up his load. Whether he and his dog Kylie are going to be at this loading dock for 20 minutes or 12 hours, he never knows.
Sometimes if they're really backed up, you have to go to the staging yard.
Some truck drivers spend 30 to 40 hours a week loading and unloading, according to industry surveys.
Mike, do you want load locks or straps? Okay.
That downtime costs truckers a whole lot of driving hours, and most of it's unpaid. Industry-wide, the losses are estimated to be over $3 billion a year. Take a look at the lines of truck traffic at loading docks across the country, and you'll see how the deregulation of the trucking industry paved the way for our big box economy. What keeps those shelves stocked and prices low is the trucking industry's ability to cheaply and quickly deliver products and supplies. Every time you shop, the cash register scan triggers a system known as just-in-time delivery. The warehouses of yesteryear have given way to distribution centers, an ever-circling fleet of rigs, and a super-efficient movement of materials. But it's not super efficient for everyone. Don often waits for hours. Today, however, he happens to get lucky. Less than 45 minutes after he arrived, Don's locking up his trailer and firing up the Peterbilt. By 2:30 p.m., Don's on the road with his load, but what's inside, he can only guess.
I can't really tell you what honestly is in those boxes. They're palletized, they're shrink wrapped, and they're taped closed. And I have no right to open any of those boxes or inspect any freight that's on the truck.
He's going to have to wait until he delivers to find out what he's hauling. The only clue is that the trade show was hosted by Safari Club International.
There may be animal heads in there. There may be stuffed animals in there. I really don't know what's in there.
To Don, the suspense is part of the adventure of every haul. Now that Don's loaded up, he's got to get fueled up. Big rigs across the country burn more than 40 billion gallons of diesel a year. With today's diesel prices, even just topping off Don's 300-gallon tank can cost a pretty penny.
$257 on this tank.
Every month, Don spends more than $5,000 on diesel fuel, 3 times more than his house payments.
This is my favorite cashier.
This load's estimated to weigh 13,000 pounds, not even a third of the maximum semis can haul. That should be a big boost for Don's fuel mileage, which doesn't even come close to double digits.
I'm hoping to get better than 6 on this load. If I get 6 1/4, I'll be doing, that'll be great. Because typically I only get like 5 to 5 1/4.
Don's aiming to cover another 400 miles by day's end. But going through this territory at this time of year, he never knows what might slow him down.
Now we're definitely getting slippery. We are into the snow, big time. Hopefully this won't continue too much longer. When we start up into the mountain ranges, we definitely don't want snow. We don't want to have to chain up. Not only takes time to chain up, but you're out there in the cold, and believe me, it is cold, and the muddy water's running off your truck and down onto you. But we're kind of like the mail delivery. You got to do what you got to do to get it there.
Getting it there could get much tougher once Don passes through these flats and starts up into the mountains.
Winnemucca will start climbing, Elko will start climbing, and then when you get into Wells, that's the tallest one. Oh, here comes something else up here. They got a lot of lights flashing. Looks like we probably got a spin out of some sort here.
It's a trucker tradition to warn other drivers about police sightings. That's why, in the digital age, there's still a CB radio in almost every cab.
10-4, that's what I want to hear. You got several bears back there at the Pilot and the Love truck stop there at 95A. I don't know if they've got a rollover or something's going on there. You got about 4 of them, so keep your eyeball out. Bears are highway patrolmen. You can say a county mountie is a deputy sheriff. And the story with truck drivers is don't feed the bears. That means don't get tickets because it's going to cost money.
Driving legend in the South today, a man called Bandit from Atlanta, GA.
I got a big bad bear story for you out there.
CB culture took Hollywood by storm in the 1970s when Burt Reynolds portrayed the Bandit. And Chris Christopherson was a rebel called Rubber Duck.
The purpose of the convoy is to keep moving.
Most of us civilians have been content to cheer on the glamorous movie star truckers. But there's one legendary figure who's been keeping real truck drivers company for the past 40 years.
What do you do out there, pal?
Well, I was all over your neck of the woods just the other day. I hauled a load of cows out of Wheeler, Texas.
Wheeler, that's 17 miles.
Bill Mack has been the godfather of truckers since his all-night radio show hit the AM airwaves in 1969. For truckers always on the move and always on their own, Mack's been one of the very few constants.
My voice was in that rig with them when they were traveling wherever they were going. They accepted me, and I became sort of a personal friend to them.
Bill Mack says trucking used to be low-tech and bare bones, the way it was portrayed by Humphrey Bogart.
It's too bad one of them hotshot passenger cars couldn't find time to give her a lift.
It actually captured the drivers as they were at that time. Trucks weren't that fancy. Matter of fact, they were quite rickety at times. Now it's big business, monumental truck stops, wide expressways. It's not the same. Completely different.
The rigs, the roads, the rules. Even the radio's different. Mac's show moved from the AM dial to the satellite channel run by his old friend Willie Nelson.
You're at Willie's place, XM13 Sirius 64.
But what hasn't changed is all the drivers out there pulling loads through the night. Their radios humming with Bill Mack and his country music marathons.
Here are the Gimbals. You'll love this song.
Back in Nevada, Don's dodged the big storm. The skies are clear and the road is dry. Right now, he's passing through Battle Mountain, home to Donna's Ranch, where Nevada's ladies of the night have given comfort to many a weary trucker.
You want to come on by Donna's Ranch and come up to 35?
I think it's by this exit by the Loves, but it's back in this area in here. But you hear them girls talking all the time like that. I can't hear you.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Are you working hard tonight?
Nobody wants to come play with the kitty cat.
A lot of the truckers talk to them all the time. Something to keep you awake.
Don was up before 6 a.m. working the load boards. And now it's 9:30 p.m. He's still working, and Leslie's probably home worrying about the snowstorm, waiting for his phone call.
There's snow in the mountains, but there's nothing down here on the roadway.
My goal is always, no matter where he's at or what he's doing, to look for a load back here. You know, but sometimes it takes me weeks to actually find a load that's coming within the vicinity. When he first went to trucking, he would be gone a week to 10 days maximum. He used to always be home on the weekend. Not anymore.
It's very hard on her, very, very hard on her. We've been married 45 years, and we worked side by side all the time. I did installation of windows, and she did all the billing, and we were very, very close the whole time. This has been the first time that we've been apart, and it's difficult, it's hard.
Well, I'm on the off-ramp, so we are in Windover, and that's where I'll be tonight.
The good news is the day ended much better than it began. Don lucked out with the weather, covered nearly 500 miles, and made it to one of his all-time favorite truck stops.
They're very, very trucker-friendly here. You can get free showers and get your tickets for the buffet, and then you walk your talk.
Perks like free showers make a difference in how much Don will end up making on this run. With $350 in diesel fuel and running expenses, and his truck payments and maintenance costs, Don's potential take-home is already down by nearly half. The biggest deduction on his ledger is the commission he pays to Landstar. For most independent truckers, commissions are simply a cost of doing business, which is why freight brokerage is a $160 billion industry. Bob Voltman is president of an industry trade group that represents brokers.
There's our Brokerage 101 course to teach folks how to do this business and do it the right way.
Those folks might be the retiree next door, a trucker's wife working out of the cab, or a giant corporation. Someone, somewhere, with a phone, a fax machine, and a knack for matchmaking shippers who need freight moved with truckers looking for loads.
Every industry has a broker of some sort. We're like travel agents for freight. But imagine if there were 50,000 airlines and every day they flew a different route. How would you find them?
Voltman says since deregulation, the market's gotten so vast and chaotic, small operators would get lost in the fray if not for brokers. Brokers, in turn, earn their finder's fees without any of the headaches or overhead of owning rigs. So while the big trucking fleets were pummeled by the recession, the broker industry was posting double-digit growth.
It's a very flexible spending, so Wall Street loves that, and the investors love that. It's fairly easy to get into the business. It's fairly easy to do it right, and you can make money.
But even Voltman says it's too easy to do it wrong. there's little regulation and virtually no oversight. Don says he's hauled for good brokers, but he's also been bilked, cheated, and completely stiffed.
Unfortunately, I've met some people that were really bad, just absolutely crooks, and they shouldn't even be in business. And a person like me would walk right into that.
Between the crooks and the cheap loads, Don says, it's an unwinnable scramble. The only way to survive, he says, is to find one reliable broker who'll put him on regular, good-paying runs. A true partner who can provide security and sanity. Don's been searching for a guardian agent for years. Last spring, he decided to hitch his hopes to one of the new breed of trucking companies. Based in Jacksonville, Florida, Landstar Systems is a very 21st century kind of operation. They don't own trucks, only trailers, and they don't employ brokers or drivers. Instead, they rely on freelance freight agents to book freight and a pool of independent truckers like Don to haul it.
They're a very well set up company. They keep track of everything. They keep track of you. You know you're going to get paid, and that's all. You know, it takes a lot of fear out of it.
Landstar takes a 35% cut of each load. But Don says that's the price he has to pay for peace of mind and a shot at finding a broker partner who can salvage his business. Day 2 of Don Wagner's Odyssey begins in West Wendover, Nevada.
Hi, baby.
More than 1,200 miles to the finish line in Iowa. But he's already focused on getting a load out of Iowa.
Nebraska to Houston.
Don checks his messages, hopeful for prospects.
Trying to find one going west. Missouri to Texas. New Brunsville, Texas. Lots of loads in Texas. Des Moines, Iowa to Michigan. This is my sister calling me from Tucson. Iowa to San Antonio, Texas.
Landstar's load alerts offer a lot of options.
15 loads so far this morning out of Iowa.
But today there's nothing paying what he needs it to pay or going where he needs it to go.
Kylie, I wish I could teach you how to do my logbooks for me.
Don can't hit the road until he gets through his federally mandated morning routine. Once he's on the clock, he has 14 hours to work and 11 hours to drive. Every minute of every hour he spends sitting at a loading dock or a weigh station is time that he can't be driving and making money.
Yeah, you know, huh? Yeah.
Even Kylie's walks have to be short and sweet.
Come on. Checking for lights and clearance lights.
But Don can't get rolling until he inspects every light, every wire, every tire. There's a whole lot of rig to check.
When it bounces out of there like that, you know it's good and solid.
Finally, Don and his 60,000-pound, 75-foot long rig are getting back on the road. Within minutes, Nevada gives way to Utah, and Don's slicing through the Bonneville salt flats. The horizon is so boundless and still, it's almost hypnotic. This ancient lake bed is legendary for high-speed auto racing, but also for lulling truck drivers to nod off at the wheel. A tired trucker can be a very serious problem for every motorist on the road. One of them was the daughter of Marshall Wood.
The truck that killed Dana routinely disregarded the hours of service rule.
This public forum was held earlier this year, part of the ongoing battle over the federal hours of service rules.
He broadsided Dana's car and pushed her over 1,500 feet before coming to a stop. I wish you could walk that distance one day and see just how far it is.
According to the National Transportation Safety Board, Fatigue is a primary factor in 30 to 40% of big rig crashes. Crashes that over the past decade have killed over 50,000 people. In 2003, the Bush administration changed the hours of service rules, increasing maximum driving shifts from 10 to 11 hours. Safety advocates like Jackie Gillen were outraged.
Increasing the number of hours that a truck driver can drive and work is not the answer to addressing fatigue. We have firm research showing that after 8 hours of driving, the risk of a crash increases dramatically.
This recent Senate hearing marks year 7 in the standoff over the new rules. Dave Osheki of the American Trucking Association says the changes have helped the industry achieve a historic drop-off in crashes.
There were 807 fewer fatalities in 2008 and 32,000 fewer injuries. By providing a longer off-duty period between work shifts, the rules have provided greater opportunities for more restorative rest for drivers.
But truck driver advocates like Todd Spencer say both sides ignore what's really keeping tired truckers at the wheel. They're not paid for how many hours they actually work, but only for how many miles they cover.
We talk about safety. We talk about why do we have these people that work too long, that drive too hard, that drive too fast. Well, how do we pay them? We only pay them for miles that they drive. Why do you think they want to do that?
Don's now sweeping into the high country of Wyoming, cutting through the crests known as the Three Sisters, barreling toward the Continental Divide, heading into territory that, for Don, is far, far from home.
I get into certain areas here that you're going to have to take a very, very cheap load to go west to get home. I've been out 6 weeks. That's a long time, and people don't realize. Take your wife or take your husband and take them away from your family for that length of time and see what you think about that.
It may be a spell of nostalgia, or missing Leslie, or simply the bleak twilight sky that's unleashed Don's pent-up frustrations.
There's lots and lots and lots of loads out there, but they're not paying a decent wage right now. I'm not saying I'm destitute. I'm hanging in there. But as far as making money right now, I'm keeping my head above water. I'm trying to stay away from those inexpensive loads because you're not making any money. Who's buying the tires on this truck when I drive this truck for $1.15 a mile? You're not buying any tires at $1.15 a mile. You're not buying brakes at $1.15 a mile. You are not going to make your truck payment at $1.15 a mile. You're not going to do it.
Don says he doesn't know how much longer this can go on.
I love driving this truck. I love being on the road. I love being moved around and see the sights. But there comes a time that it's not fun anymore. And if I'm taking money out of my pocket or I'm absolutely breaking even to do this, what I love to do, why would you want to continue doing it? And that's what's happening. That's what's happening today.
What's happening today is not all that different from what's been happening for years. The load boards, the cheap-paying runs, all the time on the road. He's hoping that Landstar will turn things around. But if anything, over the past year, he's been heading in the wrong direction.
When I first started with Landstar, I drove the 8 western states. And it got to the point that the 8 western states could not supply me enough loads to make a decent living anymore. I had to extend it and get the permits to drive in 48 states, and that's what I'm doing today. And I have to do that. It's not a matter of choice. I have to do that to make ends meet in the truck driving business today. That's the way it is.
Truth be told, Don says, his only hope is to find a guardian agent who put an end to the scramble.
I'm trying to protect the truck, the interest, and my name and my future in this business. I don't want to fail at this.
The reality is, if Don does fail, he'd be far from alone. The freight recession is now showing some signs of turning around, but over the past 3 years, more than 300,000 trucks have parked it up, and at least 3,500 carriers have gone under. None wreaked more havoc than Aero Trucking.
On December 22nd, when the official notice came out, a lot of drivers' jaws hit the floorboard. They're like, what in the hell is going on?
The 10th biggest flatbed fleet in the country suddenly pulled the plug, leaving over 1,000 drivers stranded across the country.
They weren't answering the phones in Tulsa. You couldn't get the fuel desk. You couldn't get the shop. You couldn't get the breakdown. You couldn't even get payroll on the phone. You just got a recording saying, your drivers were instructed to do what you needed to do. Sorry, click. That was pretty much it.
It's been the longest downturn in the history of the industry, and by many accounts, the most brutal. After nearly 11 hours at the wheel, Don's covered about 600 miles. He'd been aiming to make it to Nebraska, but he's out of legal driving hours. So at the TA just west of Cheyenne, he bundles up and heads inside to have some dinner. It's the end of just another day on the long haul. Only very rarely will Don splurge on a motel room or idle the engine to stay warm. More nights than not, he spends right here in this bunk, far away from Leslie.
That's it. Time to get rolling.
It's 7:30 a.m. in Hillsdale, Wyoming. Don's third day on the road begins with a long, brisk walk to the shower. It's 6 below. With the wind chill, it feels like minus 12. Showers usually cost $10, but Don has enough reward points from his truck stop fuel card to buy himself some time in room number 4. Truck stop life doesn't allow for much relaxing. Don's got a lot of ground to cover today. 600 miles to go till tomorrow's 8 a.m. delivery.
Clock's very important. You want to make a good impression on your broker, and you want to do it. You do it in a timely manner, which we will. We'll get this load there on time.
But then what? Don doesn't know. Right now, he's crossing into Nebraska, his 4th state in 24 hours. When he hits the town of Kimball, Don finds out that back at the kitchen table, the hunt for a load out of Iowa is not going well.
How are you doing? Okay, they did what now? They posted a load to Minden, Nevada?
After staking out the computer for 2 days, Leslie had finally booked a load heading west. But then the agent backed out.
That is ridiculous.
Ridiculous, perhaps, but not unusual. Don's frustrated. It's tough to do business like this. But when Don hits Sidney, Nebraska, everything suddenly changes.
Hello?
Don doesn't get many phone calls like this.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
This could be the big chance he's been waiting for. It's a freight agent looking for a last-minute favor. He needs someone to haul a load out of Iowa tomorrow morning. Don's very eager to volunteer.
Well, actually, I'll be fresh.
But the agent's concerned Don won't have enough driving hours to get the load all the way to Dallas by tomorrow night.
I only have 10 skids, so it's not going to take very long. I should be empty by 9, 10.
Maybe, just maybe, this is the guardian agent Don's been looking for.
All right, Ron, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
This is exciting news. Don could be getting his chance to shine. The only problem is time's going to be tight. Don's revitalized by the new load. Now he's hurtling through Cornhusker country. I-80 stretches through Nebraska for 450 miles. Long before the interstate, this was a kind of superhighway of the pioneers. Today, the prairies had given way to the plains. Instead of the ambling wagons, there's a ceaseless parade of rigs. Exit 126 takes Don to a TA truck stop, but once upon a time, this was an outpost for the Pony Express.
$299.02, 103.50 gallons.
During a fast-forward lunch in Ogallala, Don finds out from Leslie that the Landstar load board has suddenly gone from famine to feast.
I pick it up in Oklahoma City, and it's going to Portland.
Portland's only 500 miles from home. Don and his truck are fueled up and ready to hit the road for the final sprint. Ogallala to Osceola is nearly 500 miles. Don's on a cannonball run across the heartland. By Omaha, Don and Kylie need a pit stop. Dinner to go is one thing, he says, but he refuses to forego bathroom stops. A lot of truckers just relieve themselves in bottles.
I'm gonna say more than 50% of them do. It's really gross that you can't take the time to pull off to a truck stop and go in and use the restroom.
The tactics are extreme, Don says, but it's true that late deliveries are not a good way to impress a broker, and he knows all too well, a good broker is hard to come by. There are fewer and fewer halos of headlights. It's just Don and the night truckers on the road now.
Sometimes you wonder why you're doing this, especially when you're not making any money. You got to dream a little bit. You got to take some risks. And, but you know, life, I enjoy life, and I want to go out there and do things. I'm not going to sit down in the rocking chair. I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen with me.
Finally, that's the sign Don's been waiting to see. Exit 34, Osceola. It's been a long, hard drive, but he made it. It's 7:30 a.m., and the sun is rising over Osceola.
Right now it's 4 degrees, and with the wind chill factor, it's 12 below.
According to the GPS, Don's just minutes away from the finish line. Number 1 Boyd Drive.
I think it's 7 miles, 6 miles or something like that to go, just real close.
Truckers are always strangers in strange parts of town, but here on these snowy small-town streets, it seems that Don has become a victim of his own GPS.
I knew when I made that right-hand turn it was not going to be great.
Which brings us back to where we first left Don, lost in Osceola.
Hey, good morning, this is Don Wagner with Landstar. I got a delivery for you. And I think we took a wrong turn.
But it seems Don may finally be getting his bearings.
She said it was a great, big, huge building with a green tin roof. You can't miss it.
Don was rattled by the detour. He's not one to be late, especially today.
Well, here we are, Boyd Drive, number 1, brand new building. That's why we couldn't find it.
At least he won't be slowed down by a long line at the loading dock. But whoever plowed this driveway did not have a 75-foot rig in mind. The huge snowdrifts make it impossible for Don to back straight up to the dock.
How am I going to get in there?
Don prides himself on being able to park in tight spots.
I think that's...
Maybe, maybe not. Between the snowdrifts and the ice, Don's really met his match here. After 40 minutes, he's finally locked in. Even Kylie is relieved. Don heads inside, hoping to get a quick glimpse of the cargo he's been pulling all the way across the country.
You'd definitely be bear bait there. Look at the size of those paws.
But the stuffed bears had not been dispatched to the trade show in Reno. It turns out Don had been hauling high-end hunting apparel. By 9:15 a.m., Don's trailer is empty, and he feels the exquisite satisfaction of bringing a load.
It's all unloaded, everything signed for.
But what's really important is that he's not going to miss his next load. That's the one that could turn everything around. Will Don find his guardian agent?
What I got to do is around 4 to 4:30 this afternoon, call him and give him an ETA of when I will arrive in Dallas.
We parted ways with Don as he hooked up the trailer he'd be pulling to Dallas. The load that once seemed to offer a promise of salvation ended up unleashing a cascade of problems. A blizzard, a leaky primer pump, a 4-day-long wait in Oklahoma, and the guardian agent he had been trying so hard to impress. Don never heard from him again. In the end, the numbers were bleak. The load paid a total of $2,755, but Don's share was whittled away by expenses. After 1,600 miles, 3.5 days on the road, 33 hours at the wheel, Don's paycheck for this load was less than $450, and more than a third of that will go to his truck payments. Landstar's cut was $805.
Yeah, they take a bigger bite than I'd like to see them take, but they're the best thing going out there right now, and they're getting squeezed too. So we're all in the same situation.
Landstar reported that in the first 2 months of 2010, year-to-year load volume jumped 17%, a jump that sent first quarter profits up 45%. When we checked in on Don a few weeks ago, he was still rolling, still hoping.
I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to do the best I can, and I'm taking loads that maybe nobody else wants. I don't know. I'm working with a lot of the freight agents, and they tell you, yeah, we're looking for guys like you, but it just doesn't happen, and it's very, very upsetting. I'm telling you this right from the heart. That's the way it is. There is no bull about it.
Don Wagner. These are times that stir a lot of questioning, a lot of anger. Crossing the country in a big rig, you see all sorts of people and places. In Nevada or Nebraska, Winnemucca or Wendover, the story is the same. Lost jobs, lost homes, and more than anything, lost faith. But even amid a great recession and a jobless recovery, there still remains a deep and abiding belief in free, deregulated markets. In many ways, the free market and the big rig business both embody the American dream, a dream about self-reliance and opportunity, hope and hard work. But out on the open road, beneath the flickering truck stop lights and the idling rigs, are a lot of desperate people who are working hard and hoping harder. That unsinkable American spirit is truly something to behold. And that's our program for tonight. For HDNet, from a truck way station in Connecticut, Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
Was it for crime that I have done? He groaned up on the tree. Amazing pity, grace unknown, and love beyond degree. And across the road where I could
If you would like to add your name to an email list for information on upcoming programs, or if you would just like to send a question or comment, please email us at viewer@hd.net.